Welcome back to the Matt Brown Show. Today we've got another cracking installment planned for you guys with none other than Nick Argyros, the founder and CEO of GotBot and many other businesses which we'll get into. So how's it?
Thanks so much for having me, Matt.
Again.
Absolutely.
I'm running out of talent, bro. I'm serious.
There's a lot of talent out there. You better find it. Yeah.
Is it? I must just believe more. Okay, great. Right. So today we're going to talk about all things AI, actually. Very interesting subject and a very important subject for many reasons. Could either, propel humanity into a space of absolute awesomeness or spell our impending death and end, working for the machines.
True story.
Like the Matrix.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that you've seen on the cartoons and in the movies and so on. Like even the Terminator kind of stuff, starts kind of boiling in the back of your mind, and you start thinking, could this actually happen?
Is it a simulation?
Could it happen?
Is it a simulation? By the way,
I don't think it's a simulation, but
well, why not?
Well, I just don't believe it.
Really?
Yeah.
What if there was an evil scientist that just pulled out your cord right now, like boom, and then there was no more GotBot?
This is not the Matrix, man.
Is it not? But the Matrix was the best film ever. It was.
True
I mean,
story.
When was that? 90-something? 98?
Yeah.
That was way beyond its time.
It is. Yeah,
that put
completely.
CGI on the map.
Yeah. I mean, I even think of earlier, like being in school and watching things like Ghost in the Shell, which is quite an incredible kind of story if you think about it, because it's taking someone's soul and inputting it into a robot body, basically. Yeah. So what is the essence of a human soul, and how can you input it into a body that can be basically exchanged and so on? Or if your arm breaks, just replace it. It doesn't matter. Those things written back in probably the 80s.
But it's coming
90s,
true. It's coming true.
Could be.
I mean, so in Terminator it was Skynet.
Correct.
Right? So he's that dude. He's friends with Ray Kurzweil. It starts with a B, Baz or something like that. Ben something. Someone look up. Anyway, whatever. But he's building this thing called Singularity Net, right? Which is essentially a marketplace of AIs which are self-regulated by AIs.
Yes.
And they go, oh, you're a cool-looking AI that does rad shit. I'm going to award you with this cryptocurrency token sort of thing. And the whole idea is that collectively they will then self-design and organize to create AGE or artificial general intelligence, meaning an intelligence that's smarter than us dumbasses over here.
Yeah.
So
which is a point of singularity, basically, where everything kind of like surpasses human intelligence or surpasses what the human brain can actually do, in a sense. So they say, I think it's by 2028 they'll be able to reproduce the human brain in terms of output of data, storage, things like that, and just the human brain's actually amazing in terms of what it can do.
Well, there's just so much we don't know.
Correct.
Actually.
Yeah.
And
I think where things get interesting is once you can, what we're in now is where we're augmenting our reality, basically, where things influence what we do and how we do it. What you're talking about is insanely scary to someone like me.
Well, I was thinking about this the other day. I remember the first computer that I got, right? And I was probably 6 years old. My dad came back with this big IBM tower box thing, and it had no modem.
Floppy disk.
It was only floppy disk, not even a stiffy disk. That was an innovation,
Yeah, it was.
It was a floppy disk, and it was the days of the ping pong and Michelangelo viruses. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then as kids, you used to swap the little floppy disks, and they were if you didn't have virus or antivirus software, you were fucked.
The folder with all the codes.
Exactly.
To hack the mainframe.
And so that was my first technology sort of exposure to something what was this? And I just wish my dad had more foresight.
Yeah.
Because if he said, Matt, this shit's going to change the world, do computers, I'd be a very rich man.
No one knew. I mean, what we hold in our hands now, no one basically imagined 20 years ago.
Well, this is it. And that's the scary thing, because in my lifetime, considering that there was no internet, no computers, we were that generation, Neanderthals, essentially. No mobile phones, right?
He just called all our grandparents Neanderthals.
Well,
so you know.
Well, I mean, but I'm saying comparatively, look at us now. Fuck's sakes. Now we're building AI shit that can replicate atoms and physical fucking elements and stuff. So.
I look at us, and I mean, we're a bunch of guys that are based in Bryanston and Cape Town, and what we've been able to do commercially using anything from natural language processing to machine learning and so on. I mean, the term AI is very general, broad stroke, which machine learning and all these things kind of fall under. I think it's incredible what we've been able to do as a bunch of guys from Bryanston, Johannesburg. It's insane.
Yeah, I was talking the other day about how much technology is actually matured now, and it's become the great leveler. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I'll use the analogy of that Singularity net, but Mav, can you actually just Google Mav? Can you Google Singularity net and find out who's behind that? The guy's name. But it's the tools are free now.
Correct.
What
Amazon's doing is insane. They've just there's been a new release on AWS, and there are so many components to work out of. I mean, and what they're able to do now with cloud computing, or even going into what they're calling serverless environments and all of this type of stuff. It's insane to see what they're giving you access to. And if you look at what Amazon's doing in terms of just market share, in terms of cloud computing, because you would have thought someone like Google would have been at the forefront of this. They'd offered free services and so on. I mean, they only own 4% of the market. Amazon now owns about 54% of that market. So they're just becoming more and more and more powerful as a business. And I think that the days of the guys of Google are no longer there. They made all their revenue from ad streaming services and selling Google AdWords and GDN and all these types of things. And I think those days are numbered.
You mean ad funded business models?
Yeah. I mean, we think that, but the thing is, then you look at someone like Netflix. They run no commercials at all. But they aren't going to make the money they need. So you can already see them start piloting portions of pilots in certain parts of the States where they will be releasing adverts on their platform.
Really?
Yeah, it's already started.
I hate that.
What happened to Facebook? Exactly the same thing. They built up a massive user base, and then they needed to monetize it somehow. What's happened with WhatsApp? It's the exact same thing. They've got this massive user base. They got bought for something. I know, correct me if I'm wrong there, guys. I think they got bought for something like $14 billion or $11 billion, and they were 11 guys.
Yeah.
And they didn't make a cent.
They were twice the size of Facebook in like half the time, something like that.
Yes.
They had a team of like 9 engineers, something stupid like that.
I think it was 11 guys in total.
50 billion messages a day. A day, dude.
Yeah, but didn't make a cent. Now they need to monetize it.
Well, congratulations, Telegram, because when that happens, watch the flood of people who hate advertising, which is pretty much everyone.
Correct.
I mean, really? So now they're going to serve ads by listening to what's happening in your chatbot?
No, I don't think. Well, I mean, it's already happening in Facebook Messenger, right? If you guys read the terms very, very closely in Facebook Messenger, a lot of these companies listen to what you say, and then through programmatic advertising are then able to serve you what they think you're looking for. So advertising has become far more personalized, basically.
How are we doing on Nick's volume there? Are we good? Okay. Yeah, well, look, I mean, it's interesting. That's why AGE must come, because then it can work out on its own new ways to actually fund interesting, innovative offerings with no advertising.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's also like, I mean,
it can also solve capitalism.
What makes me very, what makes me really worried in terms of AI and the way people use it is, I just think of, we don't know what's happening with certain governments and their militaries and so on. I mean, we've already seen footage of, I mean, I did a presentation with the guys from Plug and Play, and there was this company called TrueFace. Now, what these guys can do, and they've got 2 patents pending on their gear, but what they're able to do is they are able to scan your face and check it against a database of 1.5 million people in 1.5 seconds. That's insane. And it's with basically 99% accuracy. Now imagine what that does to something like a drone or something that is able to deliver, I don't know, anything from from biochemical warfare to a gunshot or whatever it is, that becomes a scary world to live in.
Yeah. Dude, your mic, yeah, just hold it there.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
So, but the thing with military is that's actually where all the AI innovation has, all the investment actually, like 90% of it up until recent times has been a military application of AI.
Yeah.
Robotics,
Scary.
I mean, that shit that Boston Dynamics is building is scary as fuck.
It is.
I mean,
that weird dog thing.
Oh my
You're talking
God,
about, yeah,
dude.
that thing's insane. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah, the guy's name from Singularity Net is Ben Goertzel.
There we go.
Yeah, but let's get some Boston Dynamics stuff up on the screen. I mean, it's bloody scary.
Yeah, it really, really is.
It freaks me out, dude.
That
And
it can
by the-
basically open doors now. Have you seen that video?
Yeah, I have seen that. It's like, next thing you'll know, it'll figure out how to open doors.
Oh, there it is.
Oh my God. Yeah. Check this shit out, man. Yeah, so but you know, these robots are being operationalized by AI.
Correct.
You know, this isn't intelligence that's narrow.
No.
You know, like Siri's stupid as fuck. And that's the thing that most people perceive AI to be.
Correct.
The average man, I'm saying, like you different
Yes.
because you build this
Yes.
shit, and we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, okay, Siri's stupid. She doesn't, you know, work, or Alexa doesn't, you know, she's doing things I'm not really asking her to do,
Yes.
or Google Maps doesn't give me the right direction, or whatever.
Yes.
Like this is the kind of average man's perception of
Yes.
AI.
Yes.
And like with anything exponential, we know that it's going to just shoot the lights out, and we're
Yeah.
going to all be looking at this shit going, well, what have we done?
Correct.
You know? Or thank
Yeah.
God this thing's happened.
Yeah. I mean, Elon Musk's been one of the guys that's actually stood up and said, guys, we need to
Just play some, Mav.
take a look at basically what the world's doing with
YouTube.
AI in general.
Yeah, so let's talk about you, dude.
Yeah.
We'll get into some of this robotic stuff. I mean, is AI bad?
Well,
Right now.
I don't think so. I mean, I attended Stream, which was amazing, and one of the guys there held a talk around
There, check it out.
this is crazy stuff.
I mean, it's a humanoid sort of robot
Yeah.
thing that's jumping up boxes.
Yeah,
I mean, imagine the calculations going into that thing,
Yeah.
gravity,
it's mental.
like it's nuts.
Yeah, it is. It's insane, and that it stays upright actually
Yeah.
during all of that.
I heard one thing, it actually can take matter that's biological.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is an actual design, by the way, military application in robot AI. It can take like a dog, right? And then ingest that dog to basically recharge itself. So it says,
What?
yeah. That's
Are you
one
kidding
of the,
me? Or
no,
is this
I'm
like
not.
real? Why,
This is a real thing.
That's
So now you
bizarre.
got this thing running through the streets of Johannesburg.
just eating
Yeah,
dogs,
just going crazy, you know. Well, I mean,
hot dogs. City.
yeah, the disadvantage, you know. But I don't know. But it's a very scary time.
Yeah,
You know?
no, it really is. I mean, back to the point I had was I went to Stream. One of the guys that runs one of the biggest AI clusters in the country, or actually in the continent, was having a talk, and what his angle was actually quite interesting, where he said, "I think that jobs are inhumane, and robots and AI should just do all the work, and we as humans should just get to do whatever we want."
I agree with that.
And it was such a bizarre kind of take on everything, because everyone's up in arms about, robots are taking our jobs and all of these things.
yeah.
And what are we going to do? And his spin on it was so interesting. And I'd never actually thought about that.
Well, that's basically it's going to happen,
Yeah.
right there.
At some point, correct.
At some points. I mean, everything from every single type of job. I mean, neurosurgeons better handled by a robot with a steady hand.
Correct.
The ability to see more closer, more detail.
Yeah.
There's
Radiologists are very soon going to be out of work.
And it's just insane, dude. And then you look, I mean, to be fair, the only industry that won't be affected by AI is the creative industry.
Correct.
That's it.
Correct.
So if
To a point, they're saying that there are things. I don't know if you saw the Burger King taste like bird. They asked AI to come up with a whole bunch of payoff lines and so on, and one of the best ones was their chicken burger that just plain and simply said "taste like bird."
Brilliant.
Which was, I loved it.
Yeah,
I think it was awesome.
it's literal.
Yeah,
but that's what they say. I mean, they say like if you're creating content and story and stuff, AI is going to battle with that.
Yeah,
but for how long?
Correct.
But that poses an interesting question, right? Both from a consumer individual perspective, but also from at an organizational tribal level. Which is what if this actually, well, when it transpires, it's not a case of if, it's when now. But if you're looking at an organization that's largely driven through RPA, which is kind of where you're playing,
that is where we're playing.
Then what does that imply for a workforce that can't find jobs? And more broadly, what does that imply for the human race in the sense of, well, what would we do with ourselves? And
there's a bit of a moral dilemma there, isn't there?
Yeah, but it's interesting, right? Because we come from this whole system that's been, it's capitalism. Obviously there's different sort of ideologies that have been tried and failed, and some like socialism, for instance, is aspects of that, and capitalism in various countries and whatever. But fundamentally, capitalism. There's a huge movement in universities in the States now, which is Marxism, right? Which is basically saying that capitalism is broken. You got the proletariat and the bourgeoisie, or however you say that properly. Yes. And so it always creates the disadvantaged. And so you've got corporates, which are essentially making the rich get richer, basically. And that's basically the dilemma, right? So if it changes... it's kind of like saying, well, concepts like universal basic income can easily be solved.
I love that idea, just by the way.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I think it's incredible.
Project Ubu.
I don't know that.
It's a local play, actually, that are trying to solve UBI.
Wow.
But concepts like that, in other words, if you could put the collective intelligence and consciousness towards initiatives like that, because suddenly you're able to.
Correct.
Like you're talking about what's hard for the average person to understand, and even for me, and it's just that you're talking about fundamental paradigm shifts that you just can't get your head around. It's like you understand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but you don't understand 2, 4, 16, and then another 7 iterations or whatever to get to 1,000.
So what we've experienced in terms of our clientele and so on. So all of our clients are actually big blue chip corporates. And when we go and see them and show them what we're doing with RPA, and if people don't know what that means, it's a robotic process automation. So it's taking workflows, and what we do is often we circumvent or shortcut a lot of the workflows and just connect directly, because we've got a RESTful API to the single point. In terms of a database or data structure or whatever we're kind of calling and so on, and just connecting our gear and that gear to get the quickest response. So it doesn't interfere with anyone else or a person or any other type of workflow. So we're shortcutting everything. So we're augmenting the experience of people that work at these businesses. So in many ways, the people working at the businesses are so happy because they no longer need to walk up 2 flights of stairs to speak to someone, to tick a box somewhere that just seems so mundane, and it's just boring and wastes their time. They've got far more important things to do, and they really do. So there's that one side of it where we're augmenting it for a really good experience and so on for internal staff. But then comes the other side of it. As it progresses, you might then be making certain people null and void, because the person that needed to tick the box upstairs no longer needs to tick the box. And for the corporate, there's a mandate by government and so on to empower private sector to employ people. And that's where everything kind of hangs in the balance. And then on the other side of all of this, you have the shareholders in these big businesses that what do they want? They want return. So you're getting all these people talking about future-proofing their business, future forward, all of this type of thinking that's going into it. And not only that, in terms of corporates, we are now seeing countries do it as well. Singapore and China are single-handedly basically changing their entire infrastructure of their countries to adopt AI and machine learning to become better countries. I don't know if any of you guys have heard about this, but China ran a pilot 2 years ago and has been ranking citizens in one of their cities. And soon they will roll out a ranking system for citizens. And over the next couple of years, I think they're putting in over 2 million cameras They will use facial recognition to realize who you are, what you're doing, and they will start barring you from doing certain things, or basically having access to public transport if you're a thief or whatever it is. That is mental in terms of how you see it affecting a person in a company, affecting a business or a corporate, and now even affecting countries, and countries the size of China, for instance. I mean, what are they? 1.4 billion people?
It's crazy. Yeah. Mav can research that for
Yeah.
us. Yeah. So look, I mean, it's a very interesting time, right? And I suppose
True.
what's really interesting about you guys is that you were the early adopters. And I
Correct.
actually remember when we first met was in an elevator.
Yes.
It was it's a hot day in the elevator.
It was.
But I was actually, as head of innovation for TWA or whatever, I was fucking around with chatbots.
Correct.
And we were chatting, and you were like, "Oh, I'm also building
Yes.
chatbots." Remember, that feels
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
lifetime
absolutely.
ago.
Yeah, it does. A
And
lot's
then you were
changed.
Like, and then you went on to say, like, well, let's talk about your other businesses. So there's Josie, who's been running for how many years
Yes, it's, 11.
now? Okay, a long
11
time.
now,
And then you
yes.
run the biggest audio production company in the country.
Yeah.
Africa, maybe.
Yeah.
And then what I found really compelling about your argument was just how big your balls were to get a part of this market, right? Because you shut down your business for how long?
So we closed in Josie for 6 weeks total, and basically outputted as much as we could. We outputted some of the videos we might show you today. So we had to come up with a naming convention. We had to brand it. We had to do all the explainer videos, build the website, start building all the tech and so on, do all the back end, front end work and so on. And yeah, basically release a product.
What did that cost you?
Min time, you know.
And what did you tell your clients? Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I look
closing
back
shop.
and I think I was a bit nuts, to be honest. Like, it just seemed insane. But I mean, I think our timing was just good, and we're in between a lot of projects, and kept a small team on the side that just kind of kept things running in the background, just so that we could get everything done. But I miscalculated a couple of things. I'll take you through this. So, okay. So if we take a look at the basic startup cost of that, I reckon we spent about $1 in those first kind of like 2-3 months in terms of like getting it up and running and so on. I mean, it's cost us a lot more since then. So we've spent a lot more money since then. But things that I didn't calculate for. Number one is did all the calculations and said to myself, great, we can close for 6 weeks. But what I didn't calculate was the time it would take in Josie to get back up and running from stopping all the work, basically. Okay, so that was a miscalculation. So to ramp the business back up to where it was. The second miscalculation was what it would actually take to get a new business off the ground. And we were chatting about this earlier. So you walk into things and go, cool, I've been successful in 2 other businesses. I'm going into my new venture. People are going to react well to this. Do you swear on this show? People don't give a shit, okay, who you are, what you've done before. The new venture has to prove itself and earn the trust of its clients. And I forgot, I had one of my mentors come through that had just met me. I went through the accelerator, thanks to you as well. And one of the mentors, yes. Thank you for that, Matt. So pat yourself on the back there. So he came through, he took a look at the operation that I had within Josie and Audio Militia, and he looked at me and he said, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what are you doing? You've got businesses here.
Yeah.
But what I'd learned through my businesses was that in Josie is a service business. Okay, we work for every hour we get paid for. Okay, then Audio Militia taught me that we're basically a publishing and service business, or a licensing and service business. So we are able to earn portions of passive annuity through royalties and so on, you know, selling music and licensing thereof and so on, which interested me. And then what I wanted to do was build something that was basically an annuity model or licensing business with a service portion to it. So I'm building a technology company, a software business. GotBot is not a service business. So we're building a platform that people can use, and they basically rent it from us in plain and simple English. But
SaaS
back to the point,
essentially, right?
SaaS, exactly. But the point is, to get that up and running was a complete and utter miscalculation by myself. Then another thing is we got drunk on our own Kool-Aid. Okay. So we release GotBot Get It, and maybe during this portion we can show the video and so on.
Let's get the video.
So this was our first take.
It's 1.3 billion. You're 0.86. You're actually very close.
Okay, so it's just off. Okay, that's the China stat. Oh, that's scary. So this must be, so this is the next product. So we made 3 products. Go to GotBot. Yeah, go to GotBot, Get It. The very first one. There we go.
What are the differences between these 3?
So basically, GotBot Get It is a system that works in social commerce. So you are able to purchase anything you want through a chatbot service, through things like Facebook Messenger and Telegram and all these wonderful networks and so on, messaging networks. And basically what we've done is we've also built a point of sale system. And that takes your order, feeds it through, and the barista or the store, whatever, can get your water or your coffee or your sandwich ready. And then as you walk in, we can give it to you or deliver it to you or whatever it is. So it's just another form of being able to order something. But the system does a couple of really smart things. One is that it starts tracking your orders, and once you've ordered something more than 3 times, it suggests that this becomes your usual order. So you don't need to go through. That's the machine learning part of it.
Does it serve ads?
No.
Yes.
But it belongs to, a client. In this case, we did it with the Grind Coffee Company, who's a guy by the name of Dane Levenrad. And he was part of the founding team, and he's also responsible for Coffee in a Cone. So I don't know if you know about that.
No.
Most Instagram coffee in the world. Yeah. And yeah, he's done really, really well for himself. Yeah. So we did a whole bunch of stuff like this. I'll give you another example. At Stream 2 years ago, what you could do is you could arrive. We did this in conjunction with Facebook Africa themselves. You would arrive. You could take your phone out. You could scan a QR code. The QR code would then open up a messaging service. It would introduce itself. You could then order your coffee through the service. And because it was at Spear Wine Estate, we integrated into what 3 words? So we could find you within 3 square meters of where you were standing.
At a festival?
At a festival, basically, at a conference. That's all based basically outdoors and so on. You talk under tents and marquees and all of these things, and in kind of old farmhouses and so on. So really, really interesting that we were able to do that, and people loved it. I mean, there are only 300 people that come to this conference worldwide. Okay, and at peak we're taking 67 orders per hour. That's a lot for 300 people.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a lot of coffee.
That is a lot of coffee.
So you were drinking your own Kool-Aid, hey?
Yeah, we were drinking our own Kool-Aid, man. And we thought we had this product, we had it sussed, all of it. And then started realizing that a lot of the big fast food brands, the guys that we're aiming at, a lot of them just simply don't have Wi-Fi in stores. That's a bit of a problem, isn't it? And then we thought, some of these big businesses, they'll probably have 1 or 2 points of sale systems. No, they range between 7 and 14 points of sale systems.
What?
When you speak to a famous brands, okay, they got over 2,000 stores. Okay. And some of these businesses they've bought, some of them are franchised, so on. Their business model is very, very complicated, and they are just massive. Now imagine going out. You need an army to get Wi-Fi into their stores, basically. We were drinking our own Kool-Aid, but very, very quickly we realized that we need to pivot, because this is going to take us a lot of money to get off the ground, more money than I'd already spent. So we pivoted because we were talking to people in our environments and so on, and then we started noticing a lot of problems. And one of the main problems is that we realized it took us 6 months to build the system. And every person we went to that is interested in RPAs or conversation automation, basically the game that we play in, or machine learning, they wanted a bespoke solution. Their problem, each business has their own problem that they need to solve. And we realized what we needed to do was build a platform that allows our customers to build what they need to solve their problems. And that's when we built custom care. Basically,
so become a protocol rather than the application itself.
Correct. Or a platform to allow them to do whatever they needed to do.
Yeah. So I suppose you have a series of APIs that people just plug into.
Exactly.
Depending on what the need is.
Yes, that's it. Okay. That's it.
Well, that's fascinating. But let's talk about. So you're drinking your own Kool-Aid, and then this is the thing. Most startups, it's like, well, we're going to build this thing, and then. But they don't have any market feedback.
Absolutely. So the biggest lesson out of that I learned was test your own assumptions. Don't drink your own Kool-Aid. Don't think this is it, because the market will very quickly tell you that you're high on your own supply.
You say that like it's a bad thing. But
in this case, it was.
In this case, it was horrible. Yeah. But mind you, I was the same. Hey, I mean, or this business was when it was trying to be a podcast-only business. Remember?
Yeah, I remember it really well, actually.
So, I mean, yeah, you're part of my mastermind group at the time. And it was because I fell in love with my own solution, which was the Matt Brown Show and podcasting. I was like, well, if it works for me, then surely it will work for everybody else. But you can have the best product in the world. If the market's not prepared to pay you for that product, then, you don't have a business. So, what, Q? Is it? Okay. So, but that's a really important lesson, right? But let's talk about Startup Bootcamp. So I connected you to Zach. Zach's been on the show a couple of times. Stuart van der Veen also.
Yes. So Stu and Zach have been instrumental in terms of helping us.
But why Startup Bootcamp? Because when I connected you, I was like, well, at the time, it was kind of like you had this product and you just wanted to see what the appetite was for this thing.
Correct.
To your point, it was a process of actually testing a lot of assumptions.
Correct.
In a period of how many weeks? 12 weeks?
So it runs for three months, so 12 weeks. Yeah, it's very short. So they kind of compare it to doing like an MBA on steroids. So it was quite stressful and so on. So I'll tell the story.
Yeah, let's go.
Basically. So Matt, you phone me and you say, listen, I met this guy and he needs to speak to you, kind of thing. So I get on the phone with Zach, who's the CIO, the Chief Investment Officer of Startup Bootcamp. And he says to me, Nick, you need to come to PwC tomorrow and pitch your business. Matt says you're a crazy dude with a crazy idea, but he thinks it's going to work. So I played.
You had a cool hat collection.
Yes. I did have a cool hat collection back then. And so I say to Zach, no, because I've got 6 meetings the next day. This guy's calling me at 3:00 on a Tuesday afternoon.
So do you drop everything and come to
exactly. So he basically says to me, dude, just see what you can do and come in, even if we fit you in last, in the last session. So I canceled 2 of my internal meetings and I end up going. And I don't know anything about this thing. I don't know what an accelerator is. I don't know what angel investors are. I don't know what VCs are. I don't know what LPs are. I don't know anything.
Greenhorn, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. So I walk in there and I pitch it and I pitch our product. I walk out and everyone says to me, well done. You're actually the only guy that demonstrated the power of your product. And long story short, we make it into the top. So there are about 500 businesses from 43 countries that participate. We get into the top 100, then they interview us, top 40, make it to top 20. At top 20, I go in and all these people have flown in from Europe. There are 120 delegates there from all the corporate sponsors, everyone from Woolworths to RCS, BNP Paribas, Nedbank, all these massive corporates, PwC, all of them are there. And I go, wow, this is actually quite a serious thing. So we do it, we get in. And the accelerator, basically have a week. I move from Joburg to Cape Town, organize everything, leave my businesses, which freaked me out. I'm sure you can.
You're either closing your businesses or leaving them entirely.
No. I didn't close them. I'm just leaving them.
Yeah,
but that was the year before.
Right. So you did do it.
Yeah. Great. So we did that the year before. So now this is 1 year later, and basically moved to Cape Town and go through the accelerator, and it's an awesome experience for me, because one of the things that I took out of it was I kind of tell you why I worked so hard, because I was in beast mode when I went through that accelerator. I was in beast mode because at the top 20, there was this guy from Nigeria from a company called Dr. Lex, and they had a chatbot service that helps people with medical conditions and so on. And I could take a look at the idea and the tech and all of that, and I was like, this is a really good idea, but his tech doesn't work so well, but my tech would work well for him and so on. But when they chose the top 10, he wasn't selected. And I looked at this guy and I was like, I am so fortunate. I have other businesses that have done well. I have a home, a beautiful wife. I've got a car. I've got all of these things. This guy's probably lived a brutal life, come up from nothing. And when I saw his face, I was like, I am going to work so hard because this guy didn't get the opportunity to do what I'm now doing. So I let that kind of drive me, and work the way that he would work, and take the opportunity. And it was just beast mode the whole way. We did really, really well. We were their first signing. We're also the first to raise capital. We're in the midst of that at the moment, and learned a lot. But I also learned a couple of things. One is that there's a difference between an entrepreneur and someone with an idea. Everyone has ideas. Everyone. What makes the difference is execution. You know what I mean? And how much force, how willing are you? We have this saying at Njozi, and it goes, kill your darlings. So kill the things you love. Don't drink your own Kool-Aid, So, and that was it. It's like, kill your darlings and move on. All the assumptions I'd made, I was like, okay, that's it. I'm done. We're moving forward. We've pivoted, changed. We listened to the market, and we've got a really good little business now, and we want to grow it into a monster. That's what I want to do.
Okay. So, what else stands out for you about Startup Bootcamp? I mean, what are some of the other benefits? Because I've got a lot of startups, tech founders that listen to the show.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, for me, there's just a lot of movement in the startup ecosystem here. There's no one conducting the orchestra, but there's certainly a lot of initiatives that are underway.
Correct.
Microsoft Head Start, we launched a month ago. We've just done all their campaign content for next year.
Well done.
Thank you.
Awesome.
There's Standard Bank, with their incubator. You mentioned Plug and Play.
Yes.
We'll get into that in a second.
Yes.
That's also, Nedbank, Corporate Investment Bank.
Correct.
Stuart's also involved in them, and they're
He
also
is.
doing stuff, agri-tech and all that kind of stuff. There's just a laundry list of brands and initiatives and incubators, and I speak under correction, but I think Africa's got more incubators / accelerators than anywhere else in the world. But like
I don't know.
not like by a little, by a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's Race Corp, Elon Reyes.
I know them well.
First one ever, and then started Bootcamp and so
Correct.
forth. I mean, in your opinion, how does one decide which one is actually worth its salt?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really difficult question to answer. I think you've got to take a look at what everyone's offering. Some guys offer small cash injections. Some guys offer that but want equity. Some guys just run you through their program. And then what happens there is that they take, a commission basis on whatever you raise or whatever it is. There's so many different kind of ways of doing it and so on. I think for me, it's also just dependent on what you're doing. And what I mean by that is, are you a B2B business? Are you a B2B2C business? Or are you just a B2C business? And I think that's where you can start leveraging I think that's possibly my main piece of advice. That should be the foundation of how you choose an accelerator. What a lot of the guys are doing with Plug and Play, Startup Bootcamp, all of these guys, what they do is, if you're a B2B2C or B2B business, they take you and they basically show you how to pipeline into a corporate, how to talk to a corporate, how do corporates actually work. If you don't know how corporates work, a lot of them are extremely slow in terms of
all of them.
Okay. Most of them are slow, but then we've got guys like BNP Paribas, RCS, who have been incredible. We've sat with them and spoken about what do we need to deliver. We put our team aside, they put their team aside, and we run it. You must see some of the technology that we've actually put into this business, and at pace, at speed, and only because they are thinking like a startup. But they have corporate governance on their side, which we don't have. So they've got a lot of kind of cues to go through in terms of taking things live. But the way they reacted to how we worked was absolutely brilliant.
That's great to hear.
It really is. It was amazing.
Because usually you hear horror stories. I mean, Zach, when he was first on the show, he said to me that, startups go to corporates to die. SnapScan should have been a unicorn, it's the first one from Africa, and then, what happened to it is now it's used at markets.
Yeah.
Where is the scale?
Do you not think they can do it?
Still.
Yeah. I use SnapScan. I think it's an incredible product.
I use it all the time.
Yeah.
But why?
It's about adoption.
But when did they got bought? Like 2006 or something crazy.
Really?
One maybe. Can you just Google that actually?
Know.
SnapScan acquisition, Standard Bank. Yeah. But it was years ago, dude. Like the financial payment space in South Africa, in Africa, there are more mobile payments. I think 52% of all the world's mobile payments companies are in Africa.
Yeah.
So
you've got major issues here.
If you SnapScan, well then, hello, there's a window on everything, right? You know this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at what Startup Bootcamp took in this cohort this year. It was all in fintech and all mainly payment gateways, because whoever's going to win that is going to win big.
But also that's where the scale comes from,
Correct.
Right? So I mean, B2B2C wasn't a thing.
No.
And if you even, I think I speak under correction also, but B2B2C is mainly an emerging economy thing.
Correct.
It's not an American thing. America, like, let's just say if you're in a developed economy like America or the UK or whatever, if you want scale, you have scale. Everyone's running around with smartphones. Yeah. So, as a startup, if you want scale, it's kind of like, well, I want 6 million customers overnight. How do I do that? Well, you go and speak to Standard Bank, or you go and speak to another bank, or another RCS, or BNP Paribas. So B2B2C is now actually how you scale.
Correct.
So,
which is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Basically.
But you got to have the right partner at that level, though, right? So.
But also, I think what's affecting your kind of argument here is like, and we were speaking about this outside as well, is the fact that South Africa's market is not that big. We're basically, call it whatever, 60 million people here. When you move across our borders, there are 1.2 billion people on the continent. And you take a look at a country like Nigeria that is smaller in actual size, but in terms of population, they basically 4 times the size of what South Africa is. Yeah,
you're stuck in this paradigm.
Correct.
When I was in New York, and I met a lot of the startups in Barclays Techstars in Rise there. And what was really interesting for me is like every single one of them are certainly not thinking local. Well, in other words, they are, but their ambition is always global. So it's like, so let's take our client Forward Lane, right? So they're in the business of financial intelligence and crunching financial information at scale so that you can provide, as a financial consultant, investment banker, a standardized and customized and bespoke service to an entire order book of clients, not just your top 10 ultra high net worth individuals, right? So New York is the financial capital of the world. So for them, it makes sense to think local, but their scale, their ambition is very much not just one bank.
Correct.
Like there's a Cowen investment bank, $20 billion investment bank. That alone, imagine what that would mean for them as a bank.
Correct.
But now imagine how many other you don't like this. I don't think we always fall into this idea that the market isn't as big as what we believe it could be.
Correct.
And that's a sin. And so it's like think local but scale global. Always be thinking that it's bigger. This is why our ambition is to open up an office in the States next year because it's just so big.
Correct.
And it's so obviously big.
Yeah.
And it's great that there's competition there because it can support that competition.
Well, competition often means there's a market. Is
Absolutely.
why is everyone in it?
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's another thing I learned is that if you're doing someone and no one else is doing it, either you're a genius or you're an idiot. Because why isn't someone else doing it? I mean, there's a theory that when you have an epiphany or an idea, they say that, around about another 1 million people in the world have had the same thought or idea. Now, what does that boil down to? It boils down to who's going to actually follow through and who's going to execute best.
Well, that's why they call it first loser advantage. Yeah. It's like, hey, we first. Okay, great. We're going to watch you fail and learn from all your mistakes, and then we're going to come eat your lunch.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's why I say, like, I love the idea of, like, there's only two things that really matter in any business, and that's marketing and innovation.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so, like, marketing is the process of either protecting something or essentially protecting yourself against a market threat.
Yes.
Or you're trying to execute against an opportunity. So it's a land grab. So
Correct.
if you're in a business of, like, well, hey, let's just take AI and chatbots, you're certainly not the only chatbot company.
Definitely not.
There's like, I don't know.
There are a lot.
It's like cryptocurrencies. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of potential coins, and tokens and so forth. So how do you remain relevant?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, what we've done is, we've definitely sided on almost the side of the corporate, because we've realized that some corporates are so big that they have more staff than some companies have customers. When you break it down like that, it's actually scary.
Yeah.
And they've got tons of problems internally. So we're solving a lot of that type of work for them. And then we're also solving it for them on their client front, because they've got even more clients than what they obviously have employees, basically. You know what I mean? There's some banks that literally have millions of people as their clientele.
Well, like, know your customer, for
Correct.
instance. So KYC is $1 billion problem for a bank like Standard Bank, for instance, because they just don't know who the hell you are.
Yes.
So there you are with your, maybe you can walk us through an actual use case.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a couple of different use cases, but one of the ones we had, one of our clients has a massive call center. They offer loans and so on. Sorry, so I don't disclose often who they are and so on, just we're under NDAs and so on. But they have a massive call center, and what ends up happening is people phone into the call center, ask mainly 5 questions. About 60% of that are 5 questions around statements, how much do they owe, what's the lending rate, and so on and so forth. And we were able to automate that for them through a chatbot service on their website and through Facebook Messenger and so on. So people could now get their statements basically on demand and not have to go through a call center that basically, to go through that with a vetting process takes 6 minutes. And that call center closes, at 5 o'clock. You can arrive at our service and basically ask whatever you want, and you can receive your statement 24/7. And it's assisting you basically the whole time you're going through it, and we do it in 43 seconds. So it's basically taking a look at this whole thing of people that want immediate satisfaction. What do they call it? Instant gratification. Thank you. Immediate satisfaction. Wow. Same thing.
I prefer your version.
So for instance, that's a portion of it. There's another product that we've built that people come in and apply through our system that's fully automated for a loan. And what people don't realize is as soon as they put in their ID number, in the background, they continue filling out the form and so on, is that we have gone and done a credit check on them. Basically come in and then provisionally book them for a loan. Now, we are able to process, like we did 11,000 of those in a week. I mean, that's to get someone on a phone to do 11,000 people in a week that's a tall order. I don't care how big your call center is. Yeah. So we were able to then vet them to that point. They're able then to be provisionally booked. And then from there, we serve different forms basically, but it's all done through conversation. And by the end of it, people can upload all their information and get a loan, get a credit card, get whatever they want without ever speaking to a human being.
Yeah, well, this is the power of this sort of tech, right?
Correct.
But I guess, I just find it interesting that, we just don't understand the implications of that.
Yeah.
Like, imagine what you would be worth if you could legitimately solve a KYC problem with $1 billion 1 billion.
Yeah,
That's just one bank.
correct.
Now, I mean, BNP Paribas,
Yeah.
the 5th largest bank in the world. I mean, holy shit.
Yeah.
What is that? What is the size
Yeah.
of that problem? And what
It's huge.
You know, that's
huge.
That's why I say, like, you know, startups and corporates have to work together.
Yeah.
You know, and this is, you know, when we launched this Netflix style season for Forward Lane in New York, I mean, we were interviewing the head of Barclays Global Innovation, you know, guys from the Oppenheimer Fund, you know. It was just incredible to see how much collaboration there actually is in the space. Because if you don't, as a corporate, if you're not collaborating with startups, like, you're gonna wind up in shit at some point.
I want to tell you a quick story about that. We had a situation, again, won't name names, but we're busy working through Startup Bootcamp. One of the corporates comes to us and says to us, cool, so we want X, Y, and Z done. If you don't do this, be sure that we will do it. Like, so almost like a threat. Telling us, like, so either you guys, you know, this is the problem we need solved and so on. So Nick, we're giving you the opportunity to help us on this. And if you don't, then we will do it. So we will build the in-house capabilities and so on. And just the approach to me was wrong, like being a startup and so on. There's like a different way of approaching it and so on. And we took on other projects and so on. And 6 months later, guess who came back? They couldn't pull it off.
Yeah.
And it's happened to us not once, not twice, not three, like multiple times, where people say, no, we're investigating this technology. We think we can do it. And you're like, go for it. Go for it. You got a couple of million rand to throw at this problem. That's great.
Well, this is why I say...
And you're not going to do it as well as us.
Well, no, exactly. But this is the thing, right? So it's like they're drinking their own Kool-Aid.
Yes, actually. Correct.
There's a Kool-Aid problem on the show. So Standard Bank bought FirePay or SnapScan in 2014. That's 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Man. That's a lifetime.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, our platform's only been up for, like I said, 15 months. So it's like, yeah.
But still.
I love the product. I love the brand. Great. I love the guys behind it as well. I think they've done great things, you know.
Shall we play a game?
Yeah, why not?
Are we going to play a game, guys? So what game are we playing?
So this game is like 30 seconds. You each are going to get a piece of paper, and on that paper there's going to be a word relating to Christmas, and you have to describe it to the other person in 30 seconds.
Okay, cool.
This is a fun game.
Never done it before yet.
Yeah, let's do this. Okay,
so are you guys timing us? Cool.
And someone can keep score. I'm super competitive, by the way. Better watch out. Okay. Complete this. Can we go? Complete the sentence. Sweet. It's like the stork used to bring these things with, you know. The stork used to bring them. The stork used to bring them, dude. That's what women make.
Babies?
Yes.
Sweet babies.
Sweet, and then
baby.
And the guy from the Bible.
And the guy from the Bible.
Oh my fucking God.
Sweet baby.
Yes.
Jesus?
Yes, well done.
Okay, great. The guy from the Bible, awesome.
The thing you sit on and you go down a snow
a sled.
Kind of. It's another word for a sled. Same, very close.
Okay, sled, a ski,
Time.
a board, do we only get 30 seconds for all of that? I thought it was per thing. Okay.
So sleigh was the answer.
What did I say? Sled.
Sled.
Oh, crap. Sorry.
It's fine. It's your fault.
Okay, let me go for it with you. Okay. Often what women wear on their legs.
Stockings.
Excellent. People wear it. It's almost like, I can't say it. It's a piece of clothing that you put on, but people often wear not so nice ones, like during Christmas.
It's
a really difficult one. What are the little guys that help Father Christmas called?
Elves.
Yes. The stuff that falls from the sky.
Time.
Okay. Yes. It was ugly sweaters. I was trying to get out of it.
Ugly sweaters. Jesus.
To explain that.
That's interesting. Okay. So I won that round, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, but I don't know. Do you get the credit because you asked better? You set it up better?
I have no idea how this works.
Okay.
My first time, man.
Okay, cool. We'll be general. So the thing you put around a Christmas tree.
Tinsel?
Yeah, that stuff, yeah. The thing that the tinsel goes on.
The
It's just that you just said it. Just
Tinsel.
say it. No.
tree.
Yes, but the full name.
Tinsel tree. The Christmas tree.
You're a tinsel tree. Dude. It's like a present gifting thing where you don't know who gives you the presents, but you do it as part of a group.
Oh, that's Secret Santa.
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
Not the freezing part of
Time.
the north where Yana's going.
South Pole.
Time.
I still can't believe that. The South
yeah.
Pole.
What's she doing? No, she's making money.
Okay,
Going to South
cool.
Pole.
Okay, shall we go? Okay, so the guy that really hates Christmas. He hates it. He's
Grudge.
like
It's Greg. Something like
no, almost.
Grinch.
Yes. There we go. Awesome.
Greg hates Christmas.
You put it around around the Christmas
Lights.
tree and it works
Christmas
with and it's
What the hell is this?
it's a flying little person.
A flying reindeer.
No. It's a little person that flies and lights that go around.
Oh,
the Christmas.
fairy.
Yes, the whole
Christmas
thing.
fairy.
No.
Oh, fuck's sakes. Fairy. The Christmas
Time.
Yeah, and fairy lights.
We're so shit at this.
I like that. That was my attempt at a fairy.
This is the international sign for fairy.
But
Okay, well, that was great. Well
not
done.
that real
Round of
fairies
applause for
exist,
for Nick. Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was hilarious.
So yeah,
That was meant to be serious after that.
now we go
Okay.
back into business. Okay.
Excellent.
So I mean, what have you learnt about scaling up here? Because a lot of we all want, I suppose it comes down to the entrepreneur. If you know why you want to scale or not, that's where you start.
Correct.
If you do want to scale, then what have you learned in that process?
Sure.
Like, what is the attitude? Like you mentioned, StartUpBootCamp helps you to engage with corporates
Yes.
and understand how
Yes.
do you position yourself and your product offering to help solve a big problem for them and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, scaling up, what have you learned in the process of scaling up your
So,
business?
I mean, from our side, I think what I've learned is that, I mean, going into it, I knew we had a really good idea. Okay. But the whole thing with tech is if someone has a lot of money, there's a greater possibility is that they're going to catch up with you. And I don't know how we figured it out early on, but we had something that very few people had actually thought about. And now to scale that idea, you need a couple of things. Number one, I think when you start internally, you got to make sure that your product is actually built to scale. Because a lot of devs approach something and they don't think about anything in terms of load balancing or the way the tech actually, how we fire up an instance, for instance, of our tech. Is it a massive palaver, or do I just click a button and everything is automated? So we spent a lot of time just being able to click that button and just automating an entire instance. That's where a lot of our money went in. So if you start at the product, it's about the tech, and can the tech actually scale? Have we written it in the right languages? Are we using the right server infrastructure, the right architecture to do it? These are fundamentals. Okay, and we went and got a lot of advice from the guys like AWS. We've been sponsored for the first 2 years of our business. That, again, helps us scale. Then I think once you get your product right, and you got to spend a lot of time on that, I think what you concentrate on next is your internal team. So I think your first few hires as a startup are possibly the most important hires you will ever make. We employed a guy by the name of Craig McLeod, who's become our ops director. And I mean, this guy has been instrumental in terms of what we've done. And he will now, form part of the core team and have shares in the business and all of that. He'll be a partner in the business. So what you're looking for are very, very capable people that are actually better at their jobs than what you are. I mean, his background just complements my background so much. He comes from a tech background. He understands how to scale software. He understands how big corporates work and so on. So I think you got to concentrate massively there. Then once you get your product and then your team right, I think it's about how you go to market and how we speak about this a lot, about perception. You often get these small little companies, but they present themselves like these big ideas and so on. How do I walk into client, okay, and I'll just, some of our clients are the likes of Toyota, RCS, BNP Paribas. We work with guys like Home Choice, the DA. We've signed big deals with other OEMs, other car brands, and so on. Stewart Bank. How do we get into the Ned banks and so on? Just being a startup, there's a level of trust that you need to get to, but that trust, in my opinion, is coupled with perception or your marketing and so on. Why would they come to us and use us over building it and trying to build it internally, or trying to find someone else? So then you've got to match your track record up with the perception of your company out in the markets. And then I think the marketing of it is really important. And I think scaling there, where we've been very effective, is that we've been able to deliver a product that works. And then what happens is that the other corporates start speaking to each other and go, oh, have you heard about this company? And so on, or people move. So there's been a very organic shift there, understanding our business as a B2B2C business model. So you got to get that right. And then after that, you kind of start closing the loop by listening to what the market wants, what your clients want, and scaling those ideas by prioritizing those ideas in terms of what's best for your business and what's best for the client, and feeding that all the way back in to the product, and then adding it to the team and so on. So it's like a loop almost that you're building. And then in terms of scale, I think the last thing that we've been looking for is just a lot of money, because as any startup, you go into it and you go, okay, we got the idea, we've got everything. Okay, we got all these projects. Now we need to execute all these projects, but we don't have enough people. Like, to put perspective on where we are currently as a business, we're executing 35 major project builds or updates or whatever it is within the first 3 months of next year. And that's a lot for a small business to do. Yes, we have scalable tech, but now we need to ramp up. And that's where you need growth capital. And that's where we've gotten to. Basically, is a portion where, to scale properly, I need money to help me get a bigger team, a better team, to kind of scale it from there.
Yeah. I love what you said about perception, because I firmly believe that's what gets you street cred. That's what gets you in the door, or a seat at the table. And branding does that job, and we're doing this sort of thing with Forward Lane. And the other thing that I'll say, though, but it only gets you so far, in the sense of, you can have I won't mention names here, but there's one startup that we both know quite well, and has won, dude, it's just a ridiculously long list. It's 30 plus awards.
Yes.
Heavily disruptive, won all sorts of accolades, World Cup of startups, and that's not going to last, Well, it's being sold off hush, which is a real crying shame, because the founder sent me a post of a corporate, that built a similar thing, not exactly the same, but a similar thing, for $100 million. And they were bragging about it. And so this founder was on LinkedIn, and she sent me the screen capture of this, what she was saying to them. And she said, well, we did it for 5.
Unbelievable.
So why wouldn't you just come and,
Yeah.
But the biggest problem there is that, again, it's timing. AI's time is now.
Correct.
Last year beginning of this year, it was all Bitcoin and crypto.
Correct.
And, even in more sort of from a technology perspective, blockchain,
but blockchain is it, in my opinion.
Well, that's the big wave that's coming,
yes,
right?
Correct.
But it's not being spoken. I spoke to Clive Butko from Kalon, who's one of your backers, the other day, and he was saying to me, he's like, dude, no one's talking about it. No one. And he
not talking about blockchain.
Not talking about blockchain.
That's crazy, because that is, if there's another, AI. It is. So in my opinion, that's the second, or it's happening now, is blockchain. I think that's.
But the thing with you talk about scale, right? The reason why blockchain and crypto isn't front and center like AI is, especially in investment circles, they're looking for AI stuff, not so much blockchain stuff. They are, but it's very much an AI narrative, and like Ethereum can't scale, Bitcoin can't scale.
Yeah.
You know, the technology can't scale yet. You can scale. You can do 60,000 transactions in a day or processes in a day. AI can scale further and farther than what a blockchain solution can right now. It's not there yet, but when it comes, suddenly it will be, basically what's going to happen. It's going to be like the Singularity. I mean, oh snap!
Yeah.
The Singularity's here.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to go, holy shit, the world's about to change.
Yeah.
And then, but with blockchain, it'll be some startup, probably in the fintech space that solves some problem and it's heavily adoptable.
Yeah.
And suddenly everyone's going to go, it's like Uber.
Yeah.
It's going to be like Airbnb, where they went from zero to like $1 billion valuation in a year.
Yeah.
I mean, some crypto exchanges, I can't remember the which one it was in particular. I think it might have been Coinbase.
Yeah.
But they were like a $2 billion valued company within 12 months. I mean, it's like you don't like the brain can't fathom that.
It kind of reminds you of what happened in the .bomb kind of era. Eh? It's like it almost seems more short-lived than that, though. In my opinion.
What do you mean?
I mean, it just seemed like it kind of came and went in terms of cryptocurrency, in a sense. Everyone was talking about it. It's still going on.
So
I mean, I've invested in some of it and so on, but like I don't actually know where it's going.
So the narrative at the moment is all investment. It's like there's three phases. There's investment, then there's use case, a real world utility, which we're not there yet.
Yes.
And then there's there's the ecosystem level where you've got an entirely new paradigm of financial services and transactions that are decentralized, that don't involve a centralized institution, with zero wastage and almost zero fees. And scalability. And so it's like if AI was the same. It was chatbots, then it was engines, and now it's about an ecosystem of AIs like Singularity Net. If you look at all these disruptive technologies, that's pretty much
it's exactly almost like Gartner's hype chart. There's a tech trigger. That's what happens. Is something that happens that you can see there's a use case for this. So that's the trigger. Then it just rockets and everyone's just hyping it. Like this is the next big thing and so on. And then it takes a massive dip through what do they call it? The trough of disillusionment.
Yeah, that's it.
And people are like, no, this, and then it's basically reality check time. And people start going, oh, I understand. It's not taking all our jobs. It's not doing all these things. It's not going to kill us or whatever it is. Oh, there's actually a really good use case for this. And then from there, the tech starts climbing again. So it does this massive bell curve like that, hits rock bottom, and then starts growing again.
Slowly, yeah. Organically.
And I think that's when people find actual use cases for it. The market finds a use case for it, or it's being adopted, or what have you. And I think often some things are just a little bit ahead of their time. Often. I mean, the iPod came out, it wasn't called the iPod, but, Creative or whoever had made it like 10 years before Apple came up with the iPod.
So how's this, bro? So a couple of things here. So Jeff Bezos is on 60 Minutes.
Wow.
And he was talking about how he raised his first $1 million. Okay. He gave away 20% of his company. And I think it was 20 investors at $50,000 a pop. I think that did quite well.
Yeah.
But he said for each one, I mean, this was in the 90s. And
where he sold books on the internet.
But dude, he said, it was like this. He says, but every single one of these, he said he set up 60 meetings and took like 20 investors or whatever. And he said at each of those 60 meetings, they all went, what's the internet?
Unbelievable.
So, but think about the wording. What's blockchain?
Yeah.
It's a revolution in value creation, and promises just a complete rethink of the systems and everything else and the policies and the fucking regulation and red tape and stuff that we've had to deal with.
Yeah.
It's like a pink slip. Like, here you go, mate. Go and redefine financial services. Yes, I will. You know.
Someone's going to crack it in the end.
Yeah. The other thing, I was watching a documentary on Netflix about Steve Jobs this morning.
Yeah.
So it's interesting going back through that, because if you think about like IBM and people saying, "Oh, the IBM computer is the perfect computer." And he was ousted from. He wasn't even part of Apple, and then he had Next, and he built essentially the foundations of OS as we know it.
Because he also went to Pixar during that time.
He had basically made that a massive company.
Yes,
so he
correct.
had tons of cash.
Yes,
basically.
yes.
So, but when he got back into Apple, he basically said, "No, we only have like a handful of products. There were hundreds."
Yes. So he culled everything.
But he needed something to reignite interest in Apple, because the narrative around Apple was that it was doomed. It was done. IBM had won. But the battle of personal computers / Microsoft at a software level. And so instead of being a hardware company, they were focusing on software, right? And so the product that they launched was the iMacs. But the interesting thing there was that the actual components weren't that different to the IBM. It was just packaging. So remember that, like the green and the blue and the yellow bubble thing. Yeah.
Yes.
It was all packaging.
Imprinted in my mind, that computer.
Great. I still remember that.
Yeah.
And I remember going, fuck, I can't afford that.
Because you could also, because the other cool thing about that was that you could literally pick it up. Like it had a little handle at the top. Yeah. You could pick up the entire computer. I mean, you couldn't do that with any of the IBM. Like it was screen and mouse and like all of these things, and that was all packaged in like a little bubble.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
But was the beauty of it. It was this design thing, and the way that it was packaged to create a perception that this was the
future.
That this was the best product out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you've done with your 3 products.
Yes,
you've packaged it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and that's such a valuable thing, is around how you package something and then communicate that to the market.
Absolutely. And will people understand the value that it brings?
How do you dumb down something complicated like AI? Like, what's your point of leverage? When you're talking to like a corporate, do you go, hey, we can automate customer service at scale? Do you like Mike Stoffforce the other day said to me, that his leverage with corporates was, well, we the company that manages your brand in social media when a crisis happens.
Yes.
It wasn't about, we get to build your community and produce content. It wasn't. It was about, we manage your brand during a crisis. Was, of all the things one could possibly say about social media.
That's very interesting. I've never actually thought about it in that kind of context.
Like Howard Mann, we did a player coach session last week, I think. And he was saying, like, what's that thing? Like one of our clients, Granite Warehouse Management Solutions, there's lots of things you can talk about in terms of the warehouse and how that software solves this problem, but what's that thing?
Yeah.
What's the one thing that you hang your hat on and go, hey? And by the way, the thing that people understand.
Yeah.
Because the other thing I suppose that's been quite challenging for you is that AI feels threatening.
Yes, absolutely.
That came through when we were
So,
working.
I think one of the main things that we've kind of taken a look at is that our system runs in a couple of different ways, but we're truly augmenting the experience. So our system runs in hybrid modes almost, in a sense, so you can have a human handover when it doesn't understand and so on. And we can go between, structured data or unstructured data or dynamic data and so on. So you can go from a chat into a form seamlessly. And if you exit it, it will understand where you were while you were filling that form out or applying for a loan or getting a card or whatever it was, and just slot you straight back into where you were and so on. I think the one thing that we've concentrated on massively is that we've taken everything that's out there, all these buzzwords, and try to take the stigma out of it for people and just be really, really, really honest about where the tech actually is, because it's not going to solve all your problems. But there are a couple of key features that we have that we can take a lot of your pain away. And I think that honesty in terms of, this blue sky thinking and all the smoke and mirrors that comes with it, because it really is a lot of smoke and mirrors, we take all of that away and just show people straight up what the truth is about the technology behind it. Craig, our COO, said something the other day at a conference where he said, everyone's talking about AI and machine learning. It's almost like teenage sex. Everyone's doing it, but no one actually knows what they're doing. you know, and I think that's actually what's going on. So we're the guys basically guiding some of the big corporates through some of these processes as well. And then by teaching them and being very honest and upfront about it, they learn to trust us, and then they take a look at the gear and they go, yo, this actually solves a lot of our problems, you know.
So,
but I will think about that in greater
it.
detail. It's very interesting.
Because I also, for us, I mean, 90% of our client book are tech companies, weirdly.
Yeah.
And then the balance of that is pharmaceuticals. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, but why? And, you know, if you do, in any scale, you got to have a message that's really simple. Like, we do, you know, whatever. For argument's sake, like we do storytelling for tech.
Yeah. I mean, we've
else,
got our goals and our vision and our ethos and all of that. We've built all of that out. But because it's a platform as well, that helps people do their kind of bespoke builds, whatever they want to do, it's a little bit more difficult for us to like pigeonhole exactly what we do. Because if we look at the way our tech works for someone like Toyota, or how it works for an RCS or Stewart Bank, everyone uses it differently. But that's the beauty of what we've built, is allowed people to build what they need.
You should do something like open source AI. For X.
Yeah, exactly.
Or for Y.
Yeah.
Because that's what it actually is.
Yeah.
You know, people used to write off Linux back in the day. Remember?
Yeah.
Now it runs every iPhone. It's like it's just taken over. You know, so Microsoft, I mean, they move very firmly into the services space.
Absolutely.
But it's like, I'd rather be a protocol than a decentralized application.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because that's actually where think about it. That's kind of where you are. You're at that. If you think about that, you know, everything in business has hierarchies to it.
Yes.
So here's decentralized applications. Here's like the integration brokers or the APIs. And then here's your protocol, which enables everything top down and bottom up and left and right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's also a lot of money to be made in terms of like middleware. As well, you know what I mean, where all the connections are happening. We're seeing that a lot in like kind of the IoT space as well. The guys that are going to win there are the guys building the middleware that everything kind of connects in and out of. I mean, even looking at these guys from TrueFace, I mean, they're selling SDKs. Like they're not selling anything other than an SDK that you can load onto your CCTV camera system. That's what they're doing. It's amazing.
Super niche.
Yeah, it is. And it's working.
Yeah.
You know, so you can pretty much put it onto anything, which is kind of where we want to go.
Cool. Well, let's talk about where you're going to go. Where are you going?
So, I mean, what's been really, really interesting is like I think we've done really well in this past year. Within South Africa, we've had a lot of interest from markets like India and so on. So we've been talking to a lot of guys there to take our tech there. But the one deal that we basically have signed is we've signed someone on in the UK as well to kind of take the business over to the UK and open up Europe for us. So that's been like very, very interesting for us in terms of a kind of growth cross borders, because we've already got clients, you know, in the UK and even in Zimbabwe and all of that. So we're definitely wanting to go north from here. Can't go south unless we visit Jana in the south. But anyway, so it's definitely a growth kind of north for us. And then just from a product point of view, there's like I mean, we've built out our roadmap for the next 18 months, which is really, really amazing. So that's given us a lot of kind of foresight of where we're going to. But one thing that I did want to say is that we've opened up our product pipeline and what we're doing to our clients, so they take a look at what we're building. So we know that we're building alongside them and what they are looking for. So that's been I think a really good move from us.
Well, it's transparency, right?
Correct.
Because people seem to be quite closed with what they're doing, and it's we can't say shit until launch day.
Correct.
And actually, again, that's why I say it's open source. It's like people don't really understand the value of open source and how powerful that shit is. I mean, GitHub was bought by who? Microsoft.
Oh, I don't know.
And then IBM just bought Red Hat.
Yes. Yeah. We use GitHub. It's an amazing product.
But it's open source, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway. So last question for you, Bad. Why do you do what you do? Why are you doing this shit?
In terms of everything, or just doing like GotBots and so on?
Well,
okay. Okay. So everything for me, I didn't go to like basically a normal school and so on. I actually went to National School of Arts. I'm like a creative at heart.
You're a rock star.
Yeah. So it's like, it's having gone through all of that. So I made businesses because I loved things. I love design and I love gaming. So I made a business that's really good at design and gaming. That's great. So that's what Njosi does and so on. And then I needed music for my games and so on. And I love music. I'm still playing a band. So I was like, cool, I'm going to make a business. I couldn't believe I could make money out of music. And now we have possibly the biggest music agency or post-production house on the continent, you know? So I did all of those from passion. Then frustration happens with technology and so on, and you want certain things, like me going to a provider and sitting on the phone with them and just going through motion after motion, explaining who I am over and over again, and then going like, I can actually solve this problem. But also through that was the realization of understanding business models. And GotBot is a business model for me that was an experiment to see what could I do. Could I scale a business to go massive? And when I mean massive, like I'd love to build a billion, dollar business. Like if I could do that, I've hit other markers under that. I'd be very happy. But if I could do that, I'd be like thrilled. So
I'd be thrilled for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd be that guy cheering you on
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
cursing your name afterwards.
So that's why I do it. I think it's passion and problem solving all mixed into one.
Well done, dude.
Thanks
Nick,
so
thanks,
much, man.
dude. It's
Thanks
been
for
awesome.
having me. Thanks for having me, guys. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
round of applause for Nick, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, dude. Awesome.
Cheers, dude.
Cheers.